Hello, welcome back to Underrated Movies. I'm your guy, I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. Today I'd like to talk to you about another film that I believe is severely underrated, one of my favorite comedies of all time, and, well, I could see this film having some sort of controversy related to any ongoing issues regarding today. Today I'm going to talk to you about, or recommend, a film you should check out called The Cable Guy. It's an old 1996 dark comedy starring Matthew Broderick, Jim Carrey, and Lisa Mann, with also Jack Black. It's a story about a man who befriends with a cable guy or a cable electrician, or known as the cable guy, who immediately becomes friends with. But he starts to display some unusual behavior, which freaks him out. He helps him at first with other personal life related issues, most particularly of getting his ex-girlfriend back, but when it comes to having a friendship with him, things start to go a little bit off with him. I can't remember the first time I watched this film. I just remember always watching it, and hands down, this might be my favorite Jim Carrey film of all time. This might be just number one for me up there. This has a mixture of it's a dark comedy with a little bit mixture of a weird satire horror kind of like vibe. It's not built as a horror film. It's a dark comedy, but it's a dark comedy to where it's very, in a way, of a thriller. It's like a psychological black comedy thriller, and that's something you don't really normally see. It's a very unique blend of genre. It's mostly centered around this guy named Steven, who befriends with a cable guy who pretty much acts like a man child. Like the guy is very silly, and he referenced a bunch of movies, a bunch of stuff he's seen from movies, comic books, or whatever. The guy's very hardcore into his movies, and he would reference it pretty much for the duration of his for the duration of this movie. Like, he references a lot of stuff, where it seems like the guy confuses what reality is when it comes to what's actually happening in reality, or what's a movie paying tribute to something that might, he'll do something and it might relate to a movie he's done. Actually, this sounds so much like me, and this is not even funny. Where it seems like a bit random, but the way he tries to, I guess, invite himself into Stevenson's life, or he can't really interact with his friends, or he can't really fit in with his friends, where he'll do something that seems extremely unusual, just with behavior wise issue. There's a scene in the film which is actually really funny, where he plays basketball with Matthew Broderick, Jack Black, and a few other of his friends in the film, where he would act like a complete monster, where he'll get the ball and just takes it to the extreme. And there's a moment in there where he steps on Jack Black. He jumps over him, slams, dunks the ball, but breaks he breaks the hood of the he breaks the hood of the of the basket. He breaks the basket. The basket's glass, and he breaks it. Starts screaming. It's all in slow motion. It's funny. And then there's a moment in there where he challenges Matthew Broderick in this like duel. I guess it's like one of those medieval places where you get to eat with your hands, and then you get to also take part in a duel where you get to watch like a duel happening, where he takes himself pretty much literally. like he like transforms himself to like some other character, and he actually goes bonkers and starts trying to really like beat the hell up of Matthew Broderick, and it's actually quite hilarious. It's very funny. It's very funny, extremely funny. And then it gets to the point where the guy gets too literal. Matthew Broderick's having second thoughts where some of the things that he's actually trying to do to help him out might also ruin his reputation. There's a point where he believes that he should stop being friends with Jim Carrey, the cable guy. Jim Carrey takes that to so personal, he literally starts to try to ruin his life. He helps him get back with his girlfriend, Lisa Mann, but then he tries to sabotage that by saying he thinks Steven might be acting weird, calling her, doing other stuff, and to the point where he's literally trying to get him fired, which he succeeds and lands him and gets him to go to prison for supposedly supplying him with illegal services for cable. Yeah, it was back in '96, so yeah, cable was still a thing back in the day. And then he beats up a friend that Lisa Mann was trying to date. Friend was Owen Wilson. He beats him up to the point where he has to go to the hospital. It gets crazy. Like, the guy is insane. He's willing to do to the point of anything to either win Stevenson's friendship or end it. And it's kind of like a weird bromance, like romantic. In a way, like Jim Carrey becomes to the point where he's actually kind of scary. And I heard actually some interesting things about this movie. Where when it came out, people were actually terrified of Jim Carrey's character, and to the point he does come across a bit terrifying. Actually, he was my number one pick for playing the Joker, but nobody picked him. Where he would actually in the film kidnap somebody, put him in danger, just so he could get Matthew Broderick's character to confront him, and he tries to re-envision it as some sort of like movie. And the film, there's also some little things that goes on in the film. There's just like a little case, that the murder case trial that's happening in the film, where Ben Stiller, who directs the film, also acts as that part of the story. Where the film kind of intertwines a little bit with the story, that news that's being covered with the cable guy, where it has something to say about how we're very in tune to information, how we're very obsessed when it comes to the television and trying to keep up with the current events, and how we get our information is through TV, which, you know, I guess something like this would probably need to be re-examined if the film was remade nowadays. But Jim Carrey here is phenomenal. He is crazy. This is one of his best performances. My favorite scene in this film was the dream sequence, where Matthew Broderick has a dream about Jim Carrey breaking through his door, and the coloring is very different, where it seems so surreal. Jim Carrey's eyes are green, his cable suit is black instead of blue, and he literally tries to break in and to do who knows what. It's a dream sequence, and it like lasts for like 2 minutes, and he repeatedly, through his unique silly way, tries to break down the door just to get to him. And it's hilariously, bizarrely funny. It even makes you uncomfortable a little bit. And when it kind of gets towards the end, where Jim Carrey would go through lengths to get Steven's approval. And the guy also goes through multiple names. He says his name is Chip Douglas. He also says his name is Larry Tate. Then he also says at the end of the movie where his name is Ricky Ricardo. You don't know. This guy, all you know is him as the cable guy. This dude is crazy. Actually, this movie could have been like if Ben Stiller chose to, but he chose to center it out as like a somewhat of a satirical dark comedy. This film could have crossed the paths to a horror movie, but I'm kind of glad he didn't pursue that genre route, because then it would have fallen into certain other, I think, other movies that are like similar to that approach, where you have a character trying to fit into societal norms and he doesn't pan out and starts wreaking havoc, killing people, which he doesn't do that. He just kidnaps somebody and tries to, almost end them. And it gets to the point where Jim Carrey falls into complete madness, and you see it there. One of his best performances, one of his creepier performances that doesn't get enough attention, but I think it has a cult classic status. I can see why people may not like this film, but I think this is one of his best. This is one of my favorite roles of Jim Carrey, one of the funniest films I've seen from him. I highly recommend it. It should be available for free on YouTube. It was on HBO Max, but if I find a link for it, I might put it in the I might put it somewhere in the description for you to watch it and check it out. The Cable Guy. Comment below, let me know if you have seen it, what you thought about it, and let me know what is your favorite underrated movie.